There's a lot happening in the world of God of War right now. Leaks, spin-offs, canceled projects, even the Amazon live-action series, and yes, we're finally talking about God of War 6 and its rumored Egyptian setting. Grab a drink, because this is the full breakdown of every God of War project currently in development and what it all means for the future of Kratos. But before we move forward, let's take a quick breather. We've been diving deep into gods, mythologies, and Kratos' endless battles. But sometimes you just need something fun and refreshing to reset your brain, right? So here's a little surprise for you guys. I've got some free Steam keys for a game called Mix It, and trust me, it's the perfect break from all those heavy RPG worlds. It's a colorful, fast-paced, space arcade shooter where you play as an astropilot, mastering the physics of light and color to blast through chaos across the galaxy. Think of it as part science, part mayhem. You literally use colors like weapons, switching between red, blue, green, orange, and violet to counter enemy weaknesses. It's stylish, smart, and surprisingly addicting. I'll be dropping the Steam keys randomly on screen later in the video, so keep your eyes peeled if you spot one. Grab it fast. And hey, once you've played it, come back and tell me in the comments what your high score is. All right, now, let's get back to Kratos, because things are about to get even crazier. God of War 6 is officially in development at Santa Monica Studio, and it's been cooking for quite a while. According to multiple reports, early planning started even before Ragnarok was released. And here's where things get interesting. It looks like the next mythology Kratos will conquer is none other than Egyptian mythology. This isn't just another fan theory. We've got credible insiders like Tom Henderson and Daniel RPK backing it up. Daniel RPK recently revealed that Sony is casting Middle Eastern actors for an unannounced AAA title, and he directly hinted that it's for the next God of War. Meanwhile, Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming, who's been spot on with multiple PlayStation leaks, reported that God of War 6 will not only take place in Egypt, but that Kratos will wield a brand new signature weapon, a giant curved Egyptian sword called a khopesh. And honestly, it makes sense. Every new era of God of War has given Kratos a new weapon that defines its tone. In the Greek era, we had the Blades of Chaos, raw, brutal, and full of rage. In the Norse era, it was the Leviathan axe, slower, heavier, more deliberate. Now, the Egyptian era could introduce something faster and sharper, a combat style that's fluid, precise, and incredibly cinematic. What's even cooler is that this isn't a random mythology pick. Creative director Cory Barlog originally wanted God of War 2018 to be set in Egypt. In an interview, he said the first pitch he gave had Kratos wandering through a sandstorm, discovering an ancient city buried beneath the dunes. So, Egypt has been in their back pocket for years, and it feels like now's finally the time to explore it. Adding even more weight to that idea, Christopher Judge, the voice of Kratos, has personally said that going to Egypt would complete his circle. He even mentioned it at a fan convention, calling it his dream setting for the next game. So between the leaks, the casting calls, and even the actor himself, all signs point to Kratos heading straight into the heart of ancient Egypt. Now, let's talk about the story setup, because this is where things start connecting perfectly. At the end of Ragnarok and the Valhalla DLC, Kratos isn't the same man he used to be. He's no longer running from his past or letting rage control him. He's finally made peace with who he is, a god, a father, and a warrior who's found purpose. That's a huge evolution for his character, and it opens the door to a completely new kind of story. One where Kratos is no longer reacting to the gods around him, but choosing his own path. So what would bring him to Egypt? Maybe a call from the gods themselves? Maybe Atreus or Loki now leads him there. Whatever the case, Egypt's gods, pharaohs, and monsters are the perfect new challenge for a man who's already killed 2 entire pantheons. Now that we are on the topic of Atreus, what about his story, or Loki, as we now know him as well? After the events of Ragnarok, many fans expected his solo spin-off, and it still seems likely that Santa Monica or another PlayStation studio is developing it in parallel. The game could follow Atreus traveling through different realms looking for the remaining giants, and since his powers revolve around transformation, shapeshifting, and trickery, it could blend stealth, puzzle solving, and light combat more like a mix between Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man Miles Morales in tone. A focused, story-driven Loki game could serve as a bridge between the Norse and Egyptian eras, showing how Loki's adventures accidentally connect Kratos to this new pantheon. That would make the universe feel cohesive, almost like the Marvel approach, where each character's story overlaps toward a massive crossover. Now, on the development side, Cory Barlog is back in the director's chair. Jason Schreier from Bloomberg confirmed that Cory's next project isn't a new IP or sci-fi game, but a continuation of an existing franchise, which strongly implies God of War. He directed the 2018 reboot, and now he's back to reinvent the franchise once again. Santa Monica Studio has even posted job listings for a senior narrative designer and quest designer that specifically mention understanding the God of War series as a plus, basically confirming that they're actively building the next entry. So the game's in development, but when are we going to see it? If you look at the history, there was a 6-year gap between God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Following that same timeline, we'd be looking at a release around 2028, which also lines up with the rumored launch window of the PlayStation 6. But don't worry, just like Ragnarok, God of War 6 is expected to be cross-generation, launching on both PS5 and PS6. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. God of War 6 isn't the only project in the works. Sony and Santa Monica are also overseeing a smaller Metroidvania-style spin-off starring Deimos, Kratos' brother. According to Insider Gaming, it's a side project being developed under Santa Monica's supervision, something to keep fans engaged before the next mainline game. It's described as a Greek-era story, closer to the old hack-and-slash formula, inspired by games like Metroid Dread and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This Deimos game was originally planned for 2025, but has now been delayed to 2026, meaning it'll likely bridge the gap until God of War 6's full release. But that's not all. There's also the long-rumored Amazon live-action God of War series. Sony confirmed that several Santa Monica Studio producers are directly involved, which means the show isn't just a cash grab, it's being treated like an extension of the canon. Production is reportedly starting in March 2026 inches, Vancouver, and casting is already underway. There have even been whispers about names like Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, and Henry Cavill being considered for Kratos. And of course, some fans are still hoping Christopher Judge himself takes the role, which, let's be honest, would be legendary. It's rumored to adapt the 2018 story, but expand on events between the Greek and Norse eras, possibly even showing how Kratos escaped Greece and arrived in Midgard. If the show performs well, don't be surprised if it influences the tone and cinematography of God of War 6, similar to how The Last of Us TV show reinforced narrative focus in Naughty Dog's projects. And with Amazon apparently eyeing major stars for Kratos, it's clear they want this to be their next Lord of the Rings level flagship series. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about something that every longtime fan keeps asking for: the remasters of the original God of War games. Because, believe it or not, earlier this year there were tons of rumors that Sony was planning to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the franchise with full next-gen remasters of the original trilogy, God of War 1, 2, and 3, maybe even Ascension. Fans expected a huge reveal, but when the anniversary arrived, we only got a free PS5 avatar, a gallery showcase, some merch drops, and the Ragnarok Valhalla DLC. No remasters, no announcement, nothing. And honestly, that was disappointing not because fans are entitled to it, but because it makes so much sense. These original games are what built Kratos' legacy. They defined PlayStation in the PS2 and PS3 era, and to this day, they hold up incredibly well, but they deserve a proper visual overhaul to match the scale of modern storytelling. Now, even though Sony didn't announce anything official, insiders have pointed out that the interest was definitely noticed. Those fan discussions, those anniversary expectations, they made noise. And with how successful remakes like The Last of Us Part 1 and Demon's Souls were, it's not crazy to think that Sony could quietly greenlight a God of War remaster collection down the line. If that happens, it would be the perfect way to keep fans engaged while God of War 6 is still in development. It could bridge generations, letting new fans experience where it all began, and giving veterans a reason to revisit those rage-fueled roots. Now, there's no confirmation yet, but if Sony sees the demand stay consistent, especially with how vocal the community's been, we could very well see the remasters return before God of War 6 launches. And honestly, that would be the best kind of nostalgia trip before Kratos steps into Egypt. Now, one last thing worth mentioning: Blue Point Games, the studio behind the Demon's Souls remake, was apparently working on a canceled multiplayer God of War game set in Greece. According to leaks, it would have featured gods like Hades and a competitive live service format, but the project was scrapped before it ever saw the light of day. However, Blue Point is still developing a third-person action game for PlayStation, and given their history with the series, there's still a chance some of that work or those ideas might resurface in the future, possibly connected to the God of War universe. So, to sum it all up, God of War 6 is officially in active development, and this time, the story will take us deep into Egyptian mythology. Cory Barlog is back in the director's chair, guiding the next evolution of Kratos' journey. Kratos himself will be wielding a brand new weapon, the Egyptian Khopesh, marking another huge shift in the series' combat. Before that, we'll be getting the Deimos spin-off, which is expected to arrive in 2026, right around the time the Amazon live-action God of War series begins filming. And if everything stays on schedule, we're looking at God of War 6 launching sometime in 2028, possibly alongside the PlayStation 6. It's a long wait, but if history tells us anything, Santa Monica Studio takes its time for a reason. Every God of War era has reinvented gaming, and this next one looks like it'll raise the bar once again. Now, I want to know what you guys think. Would you want to see Kratos face the gods of Egypt, Ra, Anubis, maybe even Osiris? And do you think Atreus will return in this story or get his own full spin-off next? Drop your theories below. And if you're new here, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification on because we've got more PlayStation and God of War updates coming soon. Until then, stay strong, keep gaming, and I will see you in the next one.